This is Johnny Smith from the Late Break Show's Talbot Matra Rancho. A car that he bought sight unseen, which looks like it's been stored in the Pacific Ocean because it was literally falling apart on the trailer. And for some reason, we decided to accept Johnny's challenge. A decision which now brings a tear to my eye because this car is the rustiest, most decomposed car we have ever had in the workshop. Now, as well as restoration, we've also got to do a body swap onto a Subaru Impreza WRX. A car that has the same wheelbase as the Rancho. And this is the Subaru in question, which has definitely seen better days in itself. I mean, you've got a crease here and yeah, we've got a lot of work to do. A lot of work is definitely an understatement, and turning a Subaru into a Rancho is going to be one heck of a challenge. But wait, why did we decide to take on such a crazy project? Well, everything's a good idea at the beginning, right? So the story began in episode 1 with our first challenge, getting the car onto the ramp. We decided to lift it up, which was a terrible idea because it revealed the Rancho's true form, a big red heap of rust. And with the panels literally coming off without any tools, we then exposed even more horrors. So after giving the Rancho Lamborghini doors, we seriously started to question our life choices. But the show must go on, right? So after successfully extracting the fiberglass shell, we got to see the rusty inner workings of the Rancho frame. The frame was next to come off to reveal a very lovely, rusty Rancho pickup. Now, the seats were next to come out, which would have benefited from a nice bit of lubrication. Then, everything else, including the windscreen and the dashboard, could then be stripped out. This car is just getting worse by the second, and if you carry on watching throughout this episode, you will experience the point where we accidentally snap this car in half. Ready? Oh god. But before we start chopping the Rancho up and snapping it in half, we need to get stuck into the Subaru. Now this Subaru was a parts car, which makes it a perfect contender for a body swap. The wheelbase length is millimeter perfect, but the width, well, the width is a different story, but we will get to that. So now let's start with stripping the outer panels of the Subaru first. So first on the block is the bonnet. Now there's 4 bolts on the bonnet and it simply just lifts off. Next, after getting the windscreen wipers off, we then start to remove the cowl section. A few plastic clips and it pops right off. Now the Subaru has seen better days in itself, with spots of rust underneath the panels and potential front end damage. First to come off were the doors. Now inside the car there was actually parts from the Subaru which had been stripped previously and stored inside the car. That does actually make it easier for us to start stripping it and take all the parts off that we don't need. So after getting the sill kick plate off, we then decide to start working on the door. We remove the electrical connections on the inside, then we close the door and we can start working on the 4 bolts which connect the door to the car. Once the front door's off, we can then start working on the back door. And in the rear seat compartment, you can see all of the extra parts which were in the car, which have been stripped previously. The back door's a similar situation to the front, where it's just an electrical connection in the B pillar, and then we can start working on the bolts for the door. Right, we are making progress. Bonnet off, doors off. Now, we've got like a nice two-tone optional extra right here. We are missing this side skirt. It's probably inside the car. I think that's it actually. But there is a lot of the parts from this car piled in the back, so we do need to get them out as well. So I'm going to start on this side skirt here and then continue moving around the car. I'm going to get the boot off. We're going to get everything that's inside the car out, and then we can see the interior and I'll obviously take it from there. Now, with all the parts in the back of the car, we can't quite see the quality of the interior, but let's start working on this sill panel first. Now, once we removed the sill panel, we found some very uninviting rust on the sills. Right, so we're putting a rusty Rancho onto a rusty Subaru Impreza. Right, it's not often you can see the top of the running gear from inside the boot. Now the guys where Johnny got this Subaru from, they actually used this floor pan section on another car. That's why it's missing. But I mean, we will do, you know, bits and bobs on the running gear once we do actually get it off in a coming episode. But for now, we're going to get this boot off because we don't need this on, and then we can move around this side, get the two doors off as well. So similar situation to the bonnet. We've got 4 bolts which hold the boot onto the car. And there we have it. It comes right off. Now, as you can see, the Subaru has definitely seen better days, and we do need to work on this before attaching the Rancho to it. Next up are the rear lights. There's 5 bolts on the rear lights and they just slide right out. Now to work on the passenger side skirt. And this one seems even worse than the driver's side. Wow. Yes, as well as restoring the Rancho, we've also got to restore the Subaru. So putting that aside, we then start working on the passenger side rear door. And with that removed, we can now work on the front door. Once the doors are off, we can now move on to the seats. Now the seats are attached by 2 bolts on the front and 2 bolts on the back. Some of these bolts are hidden behind plastic covers, which slide off easy. Right, seats are out, front seats are out, the rear bench is out. I've still got the rear backrest for the rear seats to take out as well, so I'm going to work on that next. And then we're going to go for the centre console, however this comes out, and then we can get the carpet out, and then the dreaded dashboard, which I'm really not looking forward to doing. Okay, yeah, let's do it. Right, carpet time first and then dashboard time. Not looking forward to the dashboard. It's probably going to be complex. Hopefully it's going to be simple. We'll see. The Rancho wasn't too bad, but yeah, anyway, different story. Right, so we've gone as far as we kind of can on the Subaru. Now, the dashboard was relatively easier than I was actually anticipating, which is nice. So that's out. We've got the seats out, the interior, all the panels and everything, so that's just about sorted. The engine we're not going to touch for the moment. Now, before we do the chop on the Subaru, we need to get this windscreen in. Windscreen out, not in. It needs to come out first. So we need to get specialists in because this is actually bonded in. Now, that means we can't do the chop on that, which means we may as well start doing the chop on the Rancho. Now, as you can see, definitely seen better days, but I think we can start chopping this up. So chop through this top section here and start thinking about where we need to chop on the back section and throughout the sills and the rear arches as well. We need to cut off more than what we need because we can always trim it back later. So I think we're going to do that. It's probably going to snap in half, but we'll deal with that later. So yeah, let's start chopping this and see how far we get. Right, let's not do that. Right, I'm going to do the chop just underneath this line here. Now, I'm taking more than what I need because I can always trim it off, like I did say earlier. So this is actually rusty. There's actually holes in this, but I'm going to cut straight through that, and that'll release all of this front section. Now, I do also need to keep the outer sill, but not the inner. But I'm going to cut across the inner as far out as I can and try and retain all of that. And then I'm probably going to cut somewhere underneath here and the same on the inside as well, and then keep that sort of shut tower maybe on the back. Maybe, I'm not sure. I'm not quite sure where to go on that. But I do want to take most of what is here, and then obviously we've got a lot, and we've got too much to put onto the Subaru, so we can always, you know, trim some off and all that good stuff. So the most important thing is retaining this box section, which is in relatively good condition, and this is where the actual frame, which is just behind the Rancho over there, that's where the frame actually bolts onto. So we need to retain that definitely. And obviously it all needs to look like a Rancho, so we do need to remake these sills and remake, you know, all this section down here, but that will come. So I'm going to start on the front, cut underneath here, bada bing, bada boom. Let's go. Yes, we are meaning business now. Now, this was fairly simple. The only thing that did slightly catch me out is this bit down here, and then there's like a box section in that back, so I had to cut a couple of little windows just to get that. But we are successfully nice and free, which means we should be able to push the car forwards and then lift this off and just place it further back. Hopefully, fingers crossed. In theory, that should work, because lifting it up and trying to get it that way when there's just me and Jenny is difficult. So we're gonna put it on the back, and yeah, then it'll literally be a Rancho floor pan with an engine, which is snapped in half. Okay, let's go. Oh God. Okay, I think we managed to get the top off, and I think we've actually managed to snap Johnny Smith from the Late Break Show's Rancho in half. Yeah, that's well and truly snapped in half. That is now touching the floor. I stepped in it to start taking the actual top off, and that was it, it was gone. Oh God, absolutely gone. So yeah, there's literally just that floor pan holding it together. And as you can see, yeah, that's bad. Okay. So there you have it, a nice freshly squeezed episode number 3 of the Rancho that is snapped in half, the Suba-Rancho. Do like and subscribe. As you can see in the background, we've got that stripped as well. So that is next on the chopping block, and then we can fabricate this onto there, but we need to restore this first, and we also need to restore that and get it up on a ramp. But that's for a future episode. So do like and subscribe. It does really help us out. Subscription is free. You literally just click it if you've got a Gmail account or Google Mail or whatever, or if you signed up to YouTube, it's free. It's free. And yeah, get us on social media, Instagram, Facebook, and we'll catch you in the next episode of the Suba-Rancho that snapped in half. Yeah.